Hello everyone, I'm Genie, and today we're going over designing VFX for games. So as always, I'm still learning. I'm not a master, and I'm not going to tell you the undeniable truth about anything in this video. I'm just going to tell you what works for me and what I saw to be true in my position. So what have I worked on? I worked on hit sparks when someone gets hit. I worked on slashes, which is, for instance, if you have a sword and then you slash and then there's the thing that goes on slashes. You play games, you know what I'm talking about. I also worked on a radial impact. So let's say that the enemy got hit by a projectile, then there would be a radial impact, going from the middle of it. Or it could be the hit impact as well, the hit spark as well, depending if it's a robot or something, there's a spark to be there. You got it. I worked on some dust as well. So if the player starts running, or anyone starts running, or they jump and then there's a bigger dust, and if they land, that's what I was working on. As always, I tried to repeat the same process because that has been working for me, which is the blockout and then putting characteristics, whatever I'm building, and then shading. And there's a big but. I noticed that for VFX, there is kind of a blurry line, between what you're building and the shading. I mean, I could have put a bunch of colors in it, particles, and do all that, but I was kind of afraid of making it too granular, making it a bit too, visually noisy. So I avoided that, and maybe you can even say that I avoided shading altogether. And there's one thing that I found really interesting, man, which is being mindful of the size of the canvas. And that's something very interesting, because one thing that happened on the first hit impact that I made was that I kind of built it around the square canvas, because I thought, okay, so this is an impact, right? It would be cool if I could use the entire canvas, but no. I did that, and then the obvious thing happened. My effect was a freaking square in the end while it was fading away, and I didn't want that. So I noticed that you need to be very mindful of the canvas that you're using. I've been trying to not make things too big so I can use the pixels, because I figure that it's easier to go bigger than to go smaller. Using a bigger canvas is just a matter of putting more details and having more room to work on curves and being able to make better looking shapes. So restricting myself to a smaller canvas, I think that's better. So yeah, this thing about canvas when you're building VFX is so interesting, because you can't use your canvas, all your space you have mindlessly. Otherwise, the effect is gonna have a square shape, and it's gonna look really off when you use it. So I figure that depending on the VFX that you're working on, it can't use the entire canvas. Otherwise, it's just gonna look freaking ugly. It's just gonna look like an outdated 5-year-old built. Ah, crap! I'm laughing because that's exactly what I thought when I saw that thing. I thought, okay, I didn't see that. What a freaking dummy. And I really never thought that could be a thing, even though that's freaking obvious, but you just get a hang of it when you're actually there building it and making it generic as well. It's just really weird, because if I were working on an effect that would play on a specific part of a character and when he does a specific thing, then I would follow the shape that I would be working with. But since I'm making it really generic and as generic as I can, you don't really have much to give the right shape to the effect, because it's generic. It's supposed to work on many instances, and maybe if it works on many instances it doesn't work on any, but I'll figure that out in the future, I guess. And that's the thing that I actually found to be really hard as well, because I think I said that on my last video about having it being generic, a difficult thing. And yeah, I stand behind that. That's the hard part, the hardest part, really, at least given the previous experience I had with making UI and characters, because having it be generic makes it so I need to think about having that effect work on multiple instances with multiple different characters, if that's even the thing. But I thought it was, because I got into itch.io and then I saw that there was a bunch of packs for VFX. They did look generic, so that's why I thought that doing it generic would be a good thing, and I do still stand back on that. I think it's a good thing, because sometimes I think I'm not gonna have anything really to go and put behind the effect that I'm trying to build. So for instance, let's say that I want every time that a wall gets shot, then some particles comes out of it. I don't really have much to go out of, so I think going generic there, it's best to kind of build the ability to be specific when needed, which kind of begs the question, if it's too generic, how useful is that gonna be? And that's also a challenge. And one thing I found very interesting and a bit hard maybe is deciding on what canvas size you're gonna use for a specific effect. I think it depends on how big that's going to be on the game. I think a good exercise that I didn't do on that subject of a canvas is having the effect be drawn on a smaller canvas with as little pixels that as I get to have, and then make it bigger, working on a size on 2 times that size of a canvas, and having to rework on that effect and trying to make it better, because maybe that's why I was struggling, is because I was using a small canvas there. Maybe if it were bigger, I would have more room to make it prettier, you know, to make it more impactful. But again, I think that for the size of a canvas that I was using, I think that's as well as I can do with my current skill level, which again, I think that's good enough, I guess, right? Probably gonna get better in the future, hopefully. Now, what I'm focusing next is really interesting for me. That's really freaking interesting, because what I think I'm gonna work on next is on grabbing the movement of animals in general, right? Because, you know, I know how to draw a human walking or running or whatever, jumping, but I don't know how to draw that for animals with 4 legs. For instance, let's say a horse or a dog or a cat or even a gorilla, for instance. A gorilla doesn't have 4 legs, but it walks on 4, but different than a horse. And that's interesting. That's really interesting, right? And I want to learn how to do that. Like a spider, for instance, they all have multiple legs, and for the animation to convey that that's a horse instead of being a dog, of course there's proportion there, but I think that's gonna be really cool to work on. So I think I'm gonna focus on that next. Tell me what effects you think are interesting, because I think one faulty thing that I did was limiting myself to some effects that I think there are probably more effects there that I could have worked on to get more experience. So if you can think of some, point out in the comments so I can take a look at it later and maybe try to make that myself. So yeah, that's it. See you on the next video. Bye-bye.